Hi everyone, this is Alita Davis, and I'm here today with a very interesting guest. And if you are a small nonprofit or even a larger one, or maybe you're starting out and you don't know where to go for information, I have just the person that you need to talk to today. So our special guest today is Lisa Ludwig, who is Executive Director for the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Council, better known as LESHC. And you may have heard LESHC, somebody talking about LESHC and think, what in the heck is that? So Lisa, can you tell us something about LESHC, or Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Council?
Absolutely, and thank you very much for having me here today.
We're happy to have you here. And I think the main question I get is, what is LESHC?
So LESHC is an acronym for Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Council. The Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Council is a governing board for the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area. LESHC was established as a certified heritage area in 2003, but prior to that, in the mid-97, 96, there were about 30 people that came together as a concerned group. They formed a committee, and they were from all different areas of the three lower counties, Wicomico, Worcester, and Somerset. And they saw the need to start addressing an interpretive strategy, something thoughtful that addressed the history, the heritage, the culture of our area, and talking about economic development. And so they all came together kind of informally as a group, and then they formed themselves as a committee to start making a concerted effort to come together. About that same time, Maryland Heritage Areas was beginning to be developed by the state of Maryland, and they started their Heritage Areas program, and LESHC decided to pursue that. They had to write a comprehensive plan, which is called our management plan. They submitted that to the state, and through a very lengthy process of meetings and public hearings and such, they applied to be a certified heritage area, and in 2003, they became that.
How is LESHC funded, and exactly what is it set up for? Who benefits from LESHC? How does this organization work? And tell us a little bit about what LESHC does with the funding they get.
Sure.
And who can benefit, as I said, from this.
All right. Well, as I had mentioned, Maryland Heritage Areas Authority. There are 13 certified heritage areas of the state of Maryland, first of all. So each heritage area is made up of several different counties. I have 3. We have Dorchester County, which is heart of the Chesapeake. We have Stories of the Chesapeake. They have 4 counties. So we all vary, and we go across to Western Maryland. So every county is touched in some way by Maryland Heritage Areas, and there are 13 directors. Wow. So it is a granting agency designed at heritage, tourism, and preservation. So that being the case, we as the Lower Eastern Shore Heritage Area must apply for a management grant through Maryland Heritage Area Authority. That's an overall grant that will take care of staffing and office and any administrative cost, outreach that we do, travel, taxes, insurance, that kind of thing, anything that you would need to run an organization. However, the caveat here is it's not just given money. It is a dollar-for-dollar match. So if I wanted to ask $100 to go towards my operating, I need to provide $100 match in cash. That's a very simplistic overview. So I have to apply every year. Every heritage area must apply every year for the funding. And our fiscal year runs from July of one year into June of the second year. So that's a very important component because you're leveraging money. You're leveraging dollars when you're asked to provide a match.
Right.
However, it's also very difficult because we are a 501c3 organization, nonprofit, so we sustain off of donations. So we're required from the state to seek out donations through the counties for funding, and towns if we're lucky, for funding towards our operation. And then, you know, any other donations, private, other organizations, any source of money that we can find that can strictly go towards our operational budget.
Right. And it is rather a small organization when you consider it's for the 3 counties.
That's correct.
So there's a lot of work involved in trying to get enough funds raised to match your grant.
That's absolutely right.
What is the grant amount that you normally apply for?
It varies. It depends on how I feel that my donations will be coming in, or sustainability. It varies from year to year. Normally my operating budget can range from around $150,000, something like that, and that includes the outreach that I'm doing as well.
And all the grants that you give come out of that.
That's correct, and that does include our mini grant program, and it's a huge outreach. So we are also a granting agency, just like Maryland Heritage Area Authority is. We're an umbrella organization, and we are also a granting organization. So our mini grant program, we can fund up to $10,000 out of our operating expenses, and so we definitely cap out. We want as much as possible to give out. It is a dollar for dollar match. So out of my operating budget, we're awarding our mini grants. We put a call out to nonprofits and other governmental agencies to apply. They can apply for anywhere from $500 to $2,500. The application is a little bit involved, but we also have to follow standards that Maryland Heritage Areas Authority sets. So we have certain guidelines and criteria because we want to maintain that quality. And projects need to fall within our management plan.
Right.
So as I indicated earlier, that's a thoughtful strategy that affects your heritage, your culture, your natural resources, your history, different components with heritage tourism, which is economic development.
What kind of things do, say, your mini grants cover as opposed to what the MHAA, Maryland Heritage Area Authority grants cover?
Sure.
Because they're 2 separate things.
There are, and we oversee all of that at a local level. So our mini grants are covering things like if you wanted to redo your website for your nonprofit organization. If you wanted to do a walking tour, you're looking for enhancement of your site in a smaller way. It's a way because the nonprofits here are small. Now we do have other nonprofits that are larger, which they're always welcome to apply for. But these are projects that we're kind of helping the smaller guys be able to attain things within their realm that they can use for their economic development and bring people to their sites.
Okay.
So, for example, Ratcliffe House did a wheelchair ramp one year. They did design plans for that.
Now, was that a mini grant?
That was a mini grant. That was part of a mini grant. We've done docent training, a whole program with docent training for Historic St. Martin's, and that's in Berlin. We've done different things. Pemberton Hall's been a recipient, Westside Historical Society. So there's lots of different combinations that apply as long as you're bringing in a heritage tourism aspect and an economic development, because you want people to come to your site. And this is a way to make that happen with a project that's applicable to your organization and telling the story.
And you send out, I know you send out to nonprofits that you're aware of your grant schedule and what's available. But if they have a question, they can always contact you.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people starting out are absolutely terrified of grants, and they just have no idea, you know, if there's something they need that it can even be covered. So you're an excellent source. They can always call and say, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, and this is what we have in mind. Can that be covered?
That's correct.
And then you can help them out. So LESH is very important to nonprofits as far as helping with grants. And as you mentioned, tourism and promotion of this area, that can't happen too much. A lot of people from Maryland and Pennsylvania and New York come down here to vacation. Mm-hmm. And you also have a kind of a heritage map, don't you, for this area?
That's correct. That's correct. So we do look at our local and regional approach and also a national approach. We want visitors to come here. Mm-hmm. We want them to go the road less traveled. We want them to see the sights. We want them to appreciate the heritage, the culture, the history of our area. And it's hard to get that information out.
Yes.
And smaller organizations have a little bit harder time because they don't have the overall connectivity a lot of times, mm-hmm. and they don't know how.
Right.
So by coming to us, I can help guide them and talk them through. Grants are very involved mm-hmm. and daunting. They're not for sissies.
No.
They're not for sissies.
They are, even the small grants.
That's right. And you have to understand the process, but the payoff is good.
Yes.
It's good. And not all grants are successful, mm-hmm. but we're having those tools to give out to people that need help and they have a question or they're not sure. But it's the heritage tourism component and that economic development that we're really focused on. Mm-hmm. And obviously all our money comes through a grant from the state, through Maryland Heritage Authority. They want to see investment
yes.
for their money. This is the return on the investment.
They want to see an interest
exactly.
from this area in applying for grants and what the state can do for our area.
That is
right.
absolutely correct, yes, right. So if they need to see that return on investment, they ask for statistics. They want to know how many people came. Mm-hmm. What did you do to promote this? Did you have a brochure? All these different components are very important.
Exactly. So it's not just a matter of you asking for money from the state. You've got to prove your worth getting that money.
Do, yes.
And that people do care in this
right.
area. So not only does LESH support the people who apply for grants, but those people are supporting the need for grants in this area.
Correct.
Without you applying for a grant, there's not going to be anybody knowing that there's a need for that.
That's right.
And if you try to apply for a mini grant with LESH, that's kind of a good way of getting your feet wet before you do a larger
yes,
grant.
That's right.
I think the most important thing about grants and LESH helping nonprofits is that well, I'll let you tell them about the process. If you apply for a big grant from MHAA and you don't really know what you're doing, you actually help them, give them guidance.
Yes,
correct?
Yes, I do. So we administer the mini grants, which mm-hmm. are the small ones, and they stay local. They don't go up to the state. They stay completely in my office, so to speak, and we manage it from here. Mm-hmm. And I'm always accessible. It doesn't matter. There's no stupid question. There really isn't when you're dealing with your project and
right.
things like that. And so I want people to feel comfortable that they can contact me. So those are smaller grants. And then the bigger ones, which are up to $50,000 mm-hmm. for non-capital and up to $100,000 for capital grants, they're quite involved
yes.
and very detailed. We do hold workshops for the community. We give out announcements about the grants that are mm-hmm. coming out. And I do a one-on-one. So I meet with the applicants on a one-on-one basis, and we sit down for maybe an hour to talk about their project. Or if they have additional questions, they can always call me. But we want to talk through what they want to do. The mini grants are the way really to get your feet wet, right. as you said. And it's a very helpful tool to understand that process.
You can actually be the difference between them getting that grant and losing
yes,
it
that's
with
correct.
the help.
So the mini grants, we have a volunteer committee that reviews all the grants. It's not just up to me mm-hmm. to make that decision. So we do have a review committee that identifies the mini grants. We do the same with the capital and non-capital. So all grants that are being applied for have to come through my office. I have to have them all reviewed by another volunteer mm-hmm. committee that's local. We have to make sure that the criteria follows our management plan and that's appropriate. It has a heritage tourism value, sustainability, that type of thing. So we are reviewing and ranking. If it doesn't pass my office, it will not go up to the state.
Right.
So we are the deciding factor whether these continue on, because we have a responsibility. When the applicants are applying, they send in a letter of intent for their projects. That goes first. They have to make sure they're connecting with me. Just look at that preliminary to make sure the project makes sense and if it's applicable for their organization at this time. Sometimes they think they're ready and they're not.
Right.
And then at that point, we give authorization for them to continue. And then once they do that, we have a draft drop-dead date. And then the applications come to our office. We have our committee sit down and review and rank every grant application. So there is a ranking system per Maryland Heritage Area Authority that our committee sits down and does a preliminary on as the draft. At that point, the applicant's pretty much ready with their grant application.
Right.
And then I bring them back. I schedule appointments for one-on-one for exactly an hour, and I give them the feedback from the committee. And then we talk about things that may help that grant. If they haven't documented certain components, they need to provide documentation.
That's
if their
what's
budget's
so important.
wrong, we talk about math. Math is really important.
Yes.
Math is very important. And so
Dirty
sometimes you can be the most qualified individual, but your math is off and you don't realize it. So there's varying details that go into it. So then I impart the information to the applicant after our discussion. We don't bring them back unless they need it, unless they contact us again, because we've given them enough ammunition to be able to really bolster that application. We want every application that leaves our office to be great.
And that's part of what is so valuable about what LESHC does, because you have the opportunity as a nonprofit to have all of this grant help. And it really is good. You don't just take your MHAA application and put it in the mail and send it right off.
That's right.
It goes through you, and then you can offer suggestions as to how to make this better.
So we're kind of checking a balance before that grant goes up. Or if we feel the applicant's not ready and they just don't have the wherewithal right then to do it, we'll coach them. This isn't a good time. You need to think about maybe doing this another time. And sometimes that's applicable.
You do check and help them learn how to write a good grant.
Exactly. The other thing is that we are the only granting agency that does that. I'm not aware of any other granting agency that will bring the applicant back in midpoint, so to speak, and coach them and give them feedback. Most grants, you send them off, and that's a done deal, and you may or may not know what's happened or not. And also to remember is we're not the final say-so in those grants that go up to the state. It goes to the Maryland Heritage Area Authority, and they do rank and rate, and they review every application. So just submitting it and just coming from my office doesn't mean that grant will be funded. It's very competitive. For this year, right now, there is over $8 million worth of grant requests that have gone up to the Maryland Heritage Area Authority right now. We have a little less than $3 million to administer grants, and that does include the management grants across the state. So you can see that big dollar difference. Number one, we are substantiating the need. There's a huge need for assistance here.
Oh, yes.
And that's the beauty of Maryland Heritage Area, is that we can show that we have great organizations and sites, but there's not enough dollars right now to go around, so it's very competitive. So you have to be on your game.
So you really do, but with what you do, that does help you have a better chance, and you write a better grant by going through you, because you notice those little things that you just didn't click. Now, at one time, years ago, I remember that you told me that there was money for Wacomico County, but the grants weren't being applied for. Is that improved?
It stepped up a little bit. That's the beauty of talking to you today, is we want to get the word out more. so that people understand that we are here to help. I love helping people.
Yes, you do.
And so, yeah, so there has been a lag in Wacomico County, and I just don't know if maybe they haven't realized the impact that we bring to the table.
Whether it's fear of applying or just not knowing.
The Maryland Heritage Areas tell the stories. They tell the stories of the people, the places, the land, the water. It's all about the stories. It's all about the experience. Well, these stories have come about for thousands of years. This calls attention by heritage areas to having a mechanism to still tell those stories and share them. And at the same time, providing economic development, because when you tell the stories, you want to go to that site. So this is a way there's 13 heritage areas. We all have a different theme. We're all slightly different in our stories that we tell about our heritage culture of our people, our places, and our smells, and our sights, and our tastes. And this is a way to pull all that together and also to retain that in perpetuity. It's just a brilliant way of putting grassroots efforts, because you're dealing with local people. Your heritage areas are managed locally. And we all have a vested interest and passion in the people and places that are here. It's a common theme. We all are different, but every heritage area director feels exactly the same. We want to help people. We see this value. And it's very important. And economic development, I will say the lower shore is always forgotten. We all know that.
Yes.
We all know that. And so it's my job. I have to work a little bit harder than maybe some other areas, because we are rural. We are kind of forgotten. We're kind of that pass-through between, Virginia and Delaware and going over the Bay Bridge.
Right.
But there's a vast wealth and rich history here.
We have people that have been here for generations. Some people have never left the Eastern Shore.
When people travel, I'm also the manager for the Chesapeake Country Blue Crab Scenic Byway. So every heritage area is involved in at least one byway. So there's the Blue Crab Scenic Byway, there's also the Cape to Cape Byway, there's also the Beach Bay Indian Trail. So we've got lots of major intersections that way. And we're bringing people along these back roads, if you will, that intersect with our important historic sites. So that whole combination, lots of people are very engaged in low impact tourism, which is your kayaking, your canoeing, your biking, your hiking, your walking. And that's really significant as well, because when people come, they want to kayak, they're going to eat at local restaurants, they're going to see local sites, and it's a whole package deal that's really, really important. And it's economic development and dollars coming into our small towns and sites and villages that's really critical to the continuing blood and sustainability of our Lower Eastern Shore.
Now tell me, on the website for LESHC, is there like a map of heritage areas?
So on our website, which is lowersshoreheritage.org, there's a tab also. There's lots of information on my website that deals with all different aspects of tourism and heritage. There's also a tab of the byway. And on that, I have a special web page that will guide you through the towns and cities, popping up, and it will pop up on the web on this little map of sights and sounds and history, directions. So it's pretty comprehensive, and it also, we've morphed that into an app, a mobile touring guide as well, which you can download on iPhone.
That's neat.
So it does show the heritage area. The byway and the heritage area boundary line are pretty much one and the same.
Okay.
And back in 2003, when we were certified, these all kind of came together as one and the same, because the byway system is that heritage tourism component as well, of getting people around.
Okay.
It's bluecrabbyway.org. It's on our website, and that component there will kind of show you a little overview.
Oh, okay. Do you also put some events that are happening in the area on your webpage?
Not necessarily. We do have connections.
Okay.
But we do have connections to our tourism offices, which is Wacomico, Worcester, and Somerset County tourism offices.
Okay.
And they provide that information because there's so much ongoing. We do have a Facebook page, which we will promote, and nonprofits are very welcome to submit so that we can help share that information, because we're also that outlet to help connect everybody with what's going on.
Talk about what is our main fundraiser to help you meet that match.
Well, that's coming up really soon. That's May the 3rd, and that is our annual meeting and luncheon. It's going to be held at Wacomico Youth and Civic Center in the Flanders Room. And that is a huge outreach that we do. It's a big networking event also. Our attendance just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing.
Good.
So it's very helpful. But that is a major fundraiser for us. We do provide a silent auction. So we do sell silent auction items there as part of our fundraising efforts.
Those are donated by people?
They are donated items, which we do look to the public to submit, so that we, that's your donation to us, when we want to be able to hopefully raise money with that.
And that can be restaurant,
it can be any
tickets,
organization, absolutely.
Anything.
And it's a great way to showcase your business and information. And then we also display our mini grant projects around the room, which is very significant. We want to showcase the projects that we funded, and that gives that organization an opportunity to be there and talk about what they do.
Yes.
For the public. So that's available.
Now, do you have a guest speaker? Or?
We do. Our guest speaker this year is Edwin Remsburg. He's internationally known photographer and author. He's done lots of photography for the state of Maryland. He just got back from a trip to Saudi Arabia, I believe, and also Africa.
Wow.
So he's everywhere, and he is fabulous. So we're really looking forward to hearing him speak and to showcase his photographs as well. At the end of our program, we're partnering with Maryland Traditions through Maryland State Arts Council. They're giving a special award. They contacted us if they could come be part of our annual meeting to recognize Trimpers. They gave a state award in the fall, but they wanted to come back locally to here, to our home place, to recognize Trimpers here. And they felt that our annual meeting would be great connectivity, because everyone comes from, across the state and all 3 counties. Now, part of our annual luncheon is our Heritage Awards, which is very prestigious. We're taking nominations right now through April the 10th, nominations from the public to recognize special people or organizations for their work in their sites.
Different categories.
Different categories. There's 7 different categories. And we do encourage the public to submit through April the 10th. And we have a volunteer committee, read over the nominations, we choose the winners. We honor them at our annual luncheon. We provide them with a beautiful engraved tray and give that individual the recognition that they need. We do that every year, but we look to the public for the nominations. You can go to our website, which is lowersshoreheritage.org, and right on our website we have Eventbrite set up. You can pay by credit card, which is really expedient. You can do it 24/7, and you can see the different categories of how you can purchase your reservation. If you're doing a sponsorship, you can also do that through the Eventbrite. You would just need to be specific about how you want it to be listed. Or you can certainly contact me, send me a check for your reservations, but I do need detailed information about who's attending and how many tickets and what you want. And I can email something out to you. Also, the Heritage Award nomination form is on our website online, and a list of the previous winners. We try to do a different theme, if you will, every year. And this year, our title for our program is Through the Lens, Cultural Adventures. So we're kind of leaving it up to Mr. Remsburg to wow us with his wonderful photography.
And I know he will. The photographs were absolutely breathtaking that I saw, and so much of Maryland came through on the local ones. But as you said, he has photographs from all around the world.
That's correct.
And I particularly, as an artist, I like his people. And the architecture of the places.
Right.
But many of you will really identify with the rural Maryland photographs that he's done.
That's right. He's on Facebook too. If anyone wants instant gratification by seeing what he's doing instantly, friend him on Facebook. He's got wonderful pictures on there, so I get a kind of a taste of what to expect.
Well, I hope everybody has learned a lot more about LESH. I know I have. And please come out and support LESH at the Heritage Award Luncheon May 3rd.
That's correct.
And support Lisa as much as you
That's
can.
right.
She's like a one-man person here. So it's been wonderful talking to you, Lisa, and thank you so much for
Thank you.
your time.
Appreciate it,
Pleasure.
Alita.
And thank you all for tuning in.